Today I wanted to go kind of around my 60 Rambler with the 22R engine I got in it. I call it the turtle, but because it kind of looks like a turtle shell. But I noticed there's a lot of enthusiasm around the 22R engine, and I've gotten a lot of comments and questions. So I'll go around the car and kind of show everything that I did to the car, and the engine and some of the internals, parts that I used and where I got them from. And how I went along building it, and kind of what I'm hoping performance-wise to get out of it. But before I start, if you guys could please remember to subscribe and like and hit the notification button, and so you'll get notifications when I update any new information. And so here we go. Let's try it. So this was a 60 Rambler. A friend of mine loves these old Ramblers, so he was going to junk this one because it's pretty rusty up top. The floors and everything in it are perfect, but so I left it just like this with all the moss and patina and everything in it. But the drivetrain and everything is like it's brand new. So this car was given to me for free with a title, and then I had another friend of mine. He had a 1981 Toyota truck that I had known had been around for a lot of years through different friends, and he decided to get rid of it. He couldn't move it, so he gave me the truck. So I got a free Toyota truck and a free Rambler, and I put the Toyota truck. Now the Rambler is the frame is built into the car, a unibody style. So I cut the front frame horns off, and then cut the front frame section off of the Toyota truck with the torsion bars, and grafted it in. It slid perfectly right between the front frame horns of this car here, and got it straightened out, got the engine and everything put in. And I usually tilt the engine back, tail shaft down about 3 degrees on all my cars. Seems to be a pretty good range. And then the track width, or the width from hub to hub on the Nash here and the Toyota truck are exactly the same width. I forget what they were, 56 or and change or something. So that was also a good thing for me. So I was able to put the suspension and axles and everything from the Toyota truck. Leaf springs, I took a few leaves out because this thing's, well, the truck claims to be 2,600 pounds, and so is the Rambler, but I don't need the extra weight in the back for cargo, so I took a few leaves out of the leaf springs in the back. And then the transmission is a 5-speed. It was an SR5 truck, so I'm lucky it was a 5-speed. If it wasn't, it would have been a 4-speed. So it's a 5-speed transmission. I forget the number, like a W50 or something. And so I rebuilt that, put all new bearings and everything in it. It looked pretty good. And then I left the seats in it. So you can see some daylight up there, but some holes in it and stuff. But I left all the seats, the bench seats. The interior is in pretty decent shape. It's a Toyota Prius electric power steering unit off the, I believe, 2nd gen Prius. Cost me about $200 with the little ECU that goes with the steering column. You can buy them on eBay. You can buy brand new units, universal units, but they're usually over $1,000. So this works out pretty well. A lot of guys are kind of getting into that, hot rodders. And it works in a fail-safe mode, and it works great in this. It definitely helps a lot. And then you know, I kind of added my own gauges and stuff. I've got my boost retard switch there, and that's about it for the inside. All the glass is in pretty good shape. I have the carpet for it once I finish that up. But yeah, the floors and the bottom of this thing are in perfect condition. And then I built my own exhaust tips. I cut a Flowmaster in half and built a solid exhaust tip section under there. But I do have a regular muffler down in there too. I have front and rear sway bars on it, the biggest ones I could get. I believe they're 1 1/8 front and 1 inch on the rear. And then single adjustable rear shocks. I will build an aluminum firewall in here pretty soon, because anytime you have a battery or anything in the back, it's a good idea. Probably about 1/8 inch thick should be fine. Whether sanctioning rules want it in there or not, it's a good idea to have it. And then even a system cutoff switch to shut the whole car down They usually mount them on the back here or something like that. I do have, I believe this is like a 70s Mustang style gas tank. It's part of the floor, 16 gallons. I used the best possible lines and fittings that I could get. No Chinese stuff here. It's all Earls or Russell. This is Snow Performance. It's like a liquid intercooler. It's a methanol and water mix. And my tank. See the door jambs and everything on this thing look really solid. There's no rust anywhere. It's amazing how it's all on the top. Did have to make a bigger tunnel for the center to fit the tranny in it. And I had some old slot mags laying around for years, 15s. I threw those on there. It's been lowered a couple inches. Still like to find a front bumper for it. And then I guess now we're at the engine. So the engine is the 22R 8081 model. The later models, I think 84 is the change when they changed the head design, and you have a tall or a short deck block, and so you have a cylinder head that's a little bit taller or thinner. Around that range they change. So you got to make sure what you have when you order a chain and that sort of thing. I was a technician with Toyota Master Tech for almost 25 years, and I worked on a lot of these 90s cars when they were brand new, or didn't, because they never had any problems but just spark plugs and stuff. These are inch and 5/8 headers, which is about the size you would use on a small block. I went to LC Engineering. They pretty much carry everything for Toyota. You can buy cams from other manufacturers like comp cams and stuff, but I like the LC Engineering profile of the camshaft better. It had a lot more lift and duration for what I wanted. A wide lobe separation, which I didn't really care for. I wanted a 110 lobe separation. I believe it works really well with the Supercharger, but it's on a 113, so I'll just take what I got. And then I used the Toyota alternator and just hooked it up myself as a one wire to excite it and get it working, and that worked just fine. A universal radiator and fan assembly. This thing runs really cool. Has no problem getting hot. It actually runs too cool. I have to try to get it to turn the fan on late. But this is an inline thermostat that you can buy, because being that I built the intake, it's built out of 1/8 inch steel. And the flanges and everything are all steel, and then I think that's about 1/4 or 3-inch aluminum plate, because this Supercharger mounts from underneath, so I got to take the plate off to mount the Supercharger and then put it back on with just a good heavy sealant. So far it's working really well. This is the stock pulley that came with the kit. The Supercharger came on a Chevy V8 kit, 350 Chevy kit. So the stock pulley that came with it, 3.5 inch diameter, I believe, and then the pulley on the crank, I had to find something that was a little bit smaller so it wouldn't spin this as fast, because if it builds 6-7 psi on a V8, you can imagine what it would do on this little thing. This is 2.4 liters, something like that. And then so I made the adapter to mount onto the factory steel. It's a solid hub that came on this. There's no rubber in the balancer factory. It's just a steel hub. So got everything lined up on there. I was able to slow it down enough, so right now it builds about 13 psi if I really get into it. And I do have a smaller pulley. Every pulley size I go down seems to up it 2 or 3 psi. I got my high voltage coil here, and then I did have, because this is a steel, pretty much a steel box, it echoes like crazy in there, and this thing was screeching loud, so I put some deadening material around it, and it really helped to quiet it down a lot. Aluminum probably would have absorbed some of that sound a little better. But being the position that it's in, and I do have a standoff on the bottom to help support it as well to the block, to keep from any flexing or anything, and then just kind of a floating piece on the front here to keep from pulling down on it too hard. I've learned over the past with some of these drag cars that I have, like the Slug over there, you can't skimp when you want to build power. You got to buy the good stuff. So I've got a really good regulator here as well. I believe it's a Holley. They're all Earl lines, front to back. It's a return style system back to the tank. The tank, actually, the gas tank that's in this thing is a, like I said, I think it's a Mustang style tank, but I got it from Tanks Inc. And it comes pre-made to use one of their drop-in electric fuel pumps. The electric fuel pumps that they sell are made by Walbro, and Walbro is a big manufacturer, makes pumps for everybody, for all the production cars pretty much. It's a brand that you can trust, and I've used it in a few of my cars. I won't use frame-mounted electric pumps anymore. They're noisy, they get hot, they're just a mess. So you can get EFI style pump and use it on a carburetor. It will flow a little more fuel back to the tank, but if I decide to really up this thing or any of my other cars, it will always be able to support it. Let's see, what else is there? So yeah, Tanks Inc. for any of your fuel tanks and fuel pump needs, and they're very reasonable prices. And then so the carburetor on here is a 650 double pumper. Here's the snow performance plate. It sprays the methanol in there, and it'll help cool everything all the way down. And I notice a big difference. It also richens it up, so I have to come down probably 4 sizes on the secondaries. It went from 12 and a half or so, 12 to 1 down to 10 to 1. So the methanol is like a fuel. It will burn as well. But when it goes in cold, methanol and water, it absorbs heat, and it'll pull heat out of the intake, which will give it a lot more power. I am running 100 octane pump gas in it right now, and then with that I shouldn't have any problems. And then I put my sensors in here. Had to make some of this stuff here because all of the upper hose components that used to be on the stock manifold are gone now because I had to make this standoff. Then the internals on this engine, it is the stock block. I had everything board honed, the mains line honed. I've got studs in the mains, studs in the heads, and then LC Engineering has the stock crank for the Toyota 22R is a Ford steel crank, the steel dampener, and the flywheel. So it's all internally balanced, which is really good. And then I have steel rods in it, forged pistons around 8 to 1, 8.5 to 1 range, and then nitride coated rings. Now I've tried, anytime you use a supercharger or power adder, there are rings out there. Be careful what you buy. So far I like the nitride coated rings. I got that in the Slug over there, and they sealed really quick. I used to have the moly coated rings in the Slug there, and I had to pull them out the first time at the drag strip. It did really good a few runs, and then it started burning oil and a lot of blow by, and it burned and peeled the moly right off the rings and caused all kinds of problems. Really messed that thing up. So nitride coated rings is really a good idea. And steel, you want steel rings with any kind of power adder, which would be supercharger, nitrous, turbo, anything like that. You want wide ring gaps. I'm running about 30 thousandths on both of my cars, ring gap end, and about 3 thousandths rod and main bearing clearances on them. You want a lot of bearing clearance as well. And then see, these superchargers are really efficient. They use internals. This is 122 cubic inch supercharger, or it's a 2.4 liter engine, 144 cubic inch engine, 120 cubic inch supercharger. So every revolution it pushes 122 cubic inches of air into this 140 cubic inch engine, which is a lot. That's a big supercharger for this engine, so I'm able to turn it down quite a bit and still be efficient. Now it's got this valve here these do here, which is a better design than the old little mini superchargers that have been around forever. So when you're cruising, this valve will open a little door back here and let some of the boost bypass around it, and it keeps from having any residual drag on the engine from this thing when it's not needed. And it's supposed to work really well that way. And then the rotors inside are a twisted rotor design. They're more efficient than the straight lobe rotors. It's an Eaton internals, and the 122 superchargers also used, I believe, in like 2000s Cobras and stuff like that. They're using a lot of high performance cars, the internals of them. So this thing will easily support, you know, 500-600 horse probably. Then I used the master cylinder, clutch cylinder. All this is from the Toyota truck, the pedals, everything. I made the box here because the firewall was slanted. Yeah, see all the pedals. Handmade the accelerator pedal, but the clutch pedals, everything, and the hangers and all are all from the Toyota. I used everything I could. I still got to finish my wiring, putting it up, making it nice, but it was a Speedway wiring kit. I've used them quite a few times and had good luck with them. They're about 160 bucks, and they come with all kinds of goodies and paperwork and stuff. Work out really well. Now, in another video, what I would like to do is mark out a place out here in the fields somewhere, on a vacant road or something like that, and do it like an 1/8 mile or 1/4 mile run and check my miles an hour. Miles per hour will give you a real good idea on what kind of power it makes, and you don't have to rip it off the line to do it. So this air filter I did make out of aluminum. It's my first aluminum made one. I'm pretty happy with it. I did try running a 750 double pumper, but it was so big this thing wouldn't even hardly idle with it on there. But superchargers, you can go a little big on the carburetor. They like it, so they're not as sensitive to that. And then the exhaust system is 2.5, I believe, all the way out, with a giant Dynamax super turbo muffler on it. I really like those. They don't have a lot of internal resonance in them. And I do have cutouts. You probably can't see it, but there's a cutout there. I can uncork if I want. And then it's the long chamber mufflers that Dynamax makes. They're probably 18 inches long, I think, something like that. I use them on all my cars. They sound good. This thing isn't all loud and raspy like a little fart can or anything like that. And yeah, I think that's about it for today. If you have any questions about the engine combination, I did use the from LC Engineering. I also bought the biggest valves that they sell, and you have to buy them with new seats, and they come out to about the size of like a stock Chevy small block valve. I think a 190, 150 intake exhaust, which is huge on this little thing. And then I opened up all the ports. I hogged out all the cylinder ports in it. I polished the chambers really nice, from 1 3/8 exhaust ports up to 1 5/8 to match these. So I really opened them up. And then the intakes, I did the same. I went as far as I could. I even had to have a machine shop weld a little extra aluminum around the intake ports to give me some area surface area to mount to. In these heads, they had like a little shell for a window in there, so when the air hit it, it would cause it to swirl. I cut all of that out, so the intake ports are a straight shot right to the back of the valve. You would probably want to do it different if it was naturally aspirated, but being supercharged, I just really opened this thing up. It drives so nice, you can hardly even tell it's a 4-cylinder. Stock distributor in it, which works just fine. I might work on the just got to watch out with the stock distributors. Sometimes they usually have a lot of advance in them, because the original engines on any car, smog car, they ran very little initial timing and a lot of advance. And hot rods are usually the other way around. You want a lot of initial timing and less advance to come up with like 34 or something. These little 4-cylinders like maybe 30 or 32. V8s are what, 34 to 36. But I'm running like 16 to 20 degrees of timing at idle, and it makes it really snappy So if this has a lot of a lot of advance on it, man, this thing could be pushing 40 degrees cruising down the road, which is fine, but under boost I don't want that. So I got my boost gauge knob turned to 1 degree for every pound of boost right now, and so far it sounds okay, but a dyno would be pretty awesome. So, you know, once all of this stuff clears up that we've been going through lately, maybe I can take this thing to a dyno or something. That'd be a lot of fun to try. And then when the drag strips open up, we'll go to the drag strip and see what it'll do. Miles per hour, if I did it around here and did it just mile per hour run, if I got in the 113s or 15 range, that would easily be a 12-second car. If I hit 120, you're definitely in the 11s, so just a mile per hour run would give me a good idea. Man, if I get this thing in the 12s, that'd be pretty awesome, but without killing it, that is. But even 13s is really good for a 4-cylinder, something like this. I mean, nowadays guys are, you know, they're building huge power with these cars, but with the newer stuff, anyways. But that costs money, and we'll try to do this out without a lot of money. Although I may not have a lot of money in the body and the suspension, but all the money is right there. That stuff gets expensive quick. The supercharger alone's probably about $3 grand. So, all right, well, guess that's about it. A friend of mine gave me some new lenses for the back. These are brand new reproduction, or I think they're actually factory, old factory, brand new. But, all right, guys. Now think of something kind of nice for the grill. I'm thinking I have the hood. I might cut the hood, just cut the opening around here so all of this is filled in, and then just open up the center section of it. But, I guess that's it for today. Appreciate you guys watching. Like and subscribe, you know, all that good stuff. And we'll do another one with this thing running down the road, see what kind of miles per hour I can make. And appreciate y'all. Thanks for watching.